David Dobrik's career being ended by Jeff Wittek. Jeff Wittek and David Dobrik's friendship took an unexpected turn. Jeff had always been so supportive and protective of David. In spite of what happened, he still remained David's good friend. But lately, he could no longer pretend that everything was okay. He unfollowed David and finally spoke up about his true feelings and opinions about him. The weird thing about friendship now is that it could easily be ruined because of social media. We've seen a lot of these. Even social media personalities would rather choose content over their friends for the sake of views and followers. Long gone are the days when all that mattered was having a long and lasting relationship with our friends. In just a blink of an eye, you could lose a friend over something you posted on social media or what you did to gain more popularity. This is exactly what happened to Jeff and David. What did David do for Jeff to criticize him in public? What took Jeff so long to speak about it? For Jeff to air out his true sentiments online for all to hear meant that he was done dealing with something that wasn't right. Something serious must have occurred for him to decide to call David out. True enough, Jeff finally spoke up about what really happened with his friendship with David and how he was not treated as a friend. Let's first do a rundown of where it all started. The world stood still during the pandemic. No one was allowed to be out, and we all basically stayed at home and put our lives on hold. That was difficult, but we all complied. In June 2020, the restrictions started to ease and we were slowly getting out of our homes and trying to live normally again. David Dobrik, as a YouTuber, wanted to come back with a loud bang. He had just been on break for months and he wanted to treat his followers with something unexpected and big. Just like anyone, it was difficult for him to come up with content for his vlogs at the height of the pandemic. He never dared to go out and do vlogging amidst lockdown because he knew he would be heavily criticized and maybe cancelled. His content has always involved a large group of people, and this was a big no-no because of COVID-19. Instead of doing content at home, which could be pretty boring, he decided to take a break and just wait for everything to be back. David wanted his return to be the biggest and most thrilling of all his videos. The problem with David and his squad was that they loved to do stunts and did not want to settle for anything simple and safe. They wanted their content to be life-changing, exciting, and never before seen. This needed to stand out, but most of the time, the stunts they were doing were dangerous and could potentially hurt someone. Perhaps being cautious was not a priority as long as all their followers would love it. Trisha Paytas even predicted in one of her interviews that one day, David and his group would experience something bad and unexpected.
David Dobrik and I know this video is going to get so much hate because everyone's up his butt, but they're going to realize that something bad is going to happen in that group. I don't know what it is. Something bad, something dangerous, something like they do all these dangerous things. Someone's going to either die or
Unfortunately, this happened. David came up with a plan that put his friend's life in danger. As a part of his social media comeback, he went to Utah Lake in Provo, Utah to film a video for his content. He parked an excavator in the middle of the lake with the rope hanging from the bucket and used the heavy machinery to swing people around the water while they were riding different objects like wakeboards and inflatable tubes. Sounds like fun, right? But as usual, David went beyond what was planned, and when it was Jeff's turn, he took him too high and too fast. According to Jeff, David swung the arm of the excavator at unsafe speeds and slowed down abruptly, which resulted in Jeff being slammed into the side of the machinery. Jeff was seriously injured. He ended up with a broken foot, a torn ligament in his leg, a shattered skull, and a severe eye injury. In short, he almost lost his life. He had to undergo 9 surgeries. It was a nightmare. Jeff and David talked about what had happened. David said that it was a bad accident, and Jeff naturally forgave him. Now, people were not so sure if this was really an accident. David used heavy machinery without a permit or proper training and told his friends to swing in the bucket. To put it simply, he was putting his friends' lives in danger. Of course, no one expected it to happen, but still, all of them knew how dangerous the stunt was. We all knew that David wanted something different for his vlogs, but he should have been more prepared in case things went wrong. It was even revealed that Karina called out David when he took the rope too high and she started to slip. She got so upset and accused him of always taking things way too far. Although Jeff had forgiven David, people were sure that it would have a bad effect on their friendship. Some people thought that the accident would test how solid their bond was. People were surprised because it seemed so easy for Jeff to forgive David. That accident could have ended his life, but Jeff chose to be the bigger man and still treated David as a friend. Life moves on regardless of what's happening to Jeff. David managed to land a show with Discovery Plus where he got to travel with his friends all around the world to see beautiful places. On top of this, he was being paid. This was everyone's dream, and David got to live it and experience it. However, Jeff was stuck at home nursing his health. He had 9 surgeries, so it would take a long time before he could get back on his feet again. He revealed during a live stream that after his last and most dangerous surgery, David never texted him. He never asked Jeff how he was or how the surgery went. There was a big chance that he would lose his vision if the surgery was not successful. All Jeff needed was for David to reach out to him and show his concern, but all he got was a disappointment. Jeff was hurt because the person he thought was a true friend seemed not to care about him anymore. Clearly, he knew that David would move on without him, but he never expected to leave him hanging in the air, figuratively. There was only one thing he could do, so the next day he unfollowed David on all social media platforms. In his live stream, Jeff finally expressed his dismay and hurt over David's treatment of him.
It felt good to get that out there. It felt good to hit that unfollow button. You know, I woke up from surgery, and a day goes by, no text from him. Another day goes by, no text.
He posted a video on his YouTube channel, Jeff FM, titled Dear David. He opened up about the real situation between him and David. He admitted that he initially had an episode where he talked about David way too aggressively, but he chose to scrape it, probably because he was on painkillers. He tried again, and this time he was more aware, relaxed, and open-minded about their situation.
And he said that it was my fault. David blamed me for the He insinuated that I was crazy, I always want to push it, and I'm the reason that this happened. When that's complete bullshit. There's 20 people on the beach that are witnesses. I have fucking 6 terabytes of footage of you asking me, begging me to go out there and do the thing again, and that you would spin it slow. You just want to take me out there because it's more scenic.
After that accident, he still considered David his friend, even if David didn't show him care and concern during the hospitalization. Jeff was still hoping that they would be okay, but their friendship did not get better. The real reason he was so mad at David was that he put the blame entirely on Jeff for the accident. A producer contacted Jeff and showed him a clip where David washed his hands off the excavator accident and bluntly said that it was Jeff's fault that it had happened. Jeff was so upset because he became the victim of that stunt, and now he was the one to blame. It was unbelievable because Jeff had all this time been so forgiving of David that he didn't press any charges against him. He had evidence to prove that David was begging him to do the stunt, and he even promised to swing the bucket slowly, but all he did was sweep everything under the rug. Jeff also added that before the video was released, he even asked him to review it and take out anything that would ruin him. David came over after Jeff's surgery and just straight away jumped into working and editing like it was the only thing that mattered. He never asked him how the surgery went. When Kourtney Kardashian called, David shoved the phone in Jeff's face and informed Kourtney that Jeff did something stupid. That was not cool. So when they were alone, he told David that he should stop saying to everyone that it was Jeff's fault that the accident occurred. After that, their friendship went downhill. It had been over a year now, and Jeff was done protecting David's image. Jeff went on to say that he loved all of his friends in the group and hoped that one day they would be wise enough to know what was right and wrong. He was also worried about his friendship with Jason Nash, whom he considered his closest friend in the group. He and Jason were always together. Jason was always on his podcast. He remembered David forbidding Jason from seeing his ex-girlfriend Trisha because she was not good for his image. It looked like this was what was happening now with Jeff and Jason. Jason would follow anything David would say because he was his main source of income. Jason needed David to earn money, and it was difficult to compete with that. Jeff was supposed to be part of the roast of Bryce Hall with Jason, but he decided to drop out because more than half of his jokes were cut. He worked so hard at writing the jokes, but he was asked to cut down 50% of them, maybe because most of them were about David. He announced this on Twitter: "I'm no longer a part of the roast of Bryce Hall. My entire set will be cut due to censorship, and David Dobrik being involved. I refuse to be a part of anything that S-Bag is involved in from here on out." He later added, "I chose to have my set cut. They tried to remove half of my jokes. This was supposed to be a comedy show. I didn't say anything I wouldn't say in my own YouTube videos or podcasts. This is all because that coward was there and he can't take our jokes." To make matters worse, David did not shoulder Jeff's hospital bills. David promised Jeff that he would cover his medical bills, which he was expected to do. However, he never did fulfill his promise, and now Jeff is burdened with the bills that led to his negative credit rating. He had no work now, and he couldn't get a loan. Things were just so overwhelming and difficult for Jeff. He had some regrets for allowing David to control his own documentary, but nonetheless, Jeff is still well loved and supported by all his fans. They were people who were encouraging Jeff to press charges against David. It's still not too late to fix everything that happened. What do you think Jeff would do next? Would he sue David for the accident? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Stay tuned for more exciting videos. Are you not entertained? If you are, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.